So we did the Daphne Guinness show in 2011, and this video shows a little bit about how we prepared the show, and then it shows footage of the exhibition itself, including our hologram of you.
Which was so great. That was so great.
Let's talk a little bit about how we made the hologram first.
I remember getting dressed and getting into that box and being filmed from all sides.
You were wearing the McQueen jumpsuit
and something on my head.
Tiara. No, you were putting on all of the diamonds. You put on the tiara, etc.
And I put on the Lagerfeld coat.
Exactly. And I guess it wasn't technically a hologram because we didn't shoot lasers at you. It's what they call a Pepper's ghost. We shot cameras at you from all different angles, and that made a three-dimensional moving image of you.
Which was so beautiful.
Another part we should talk about is how we worked together on it, and how you had everything, you had a database with almost all of your clothes in it. So we were able to do a first choice and then figure out the categories, like dandy and armor.
That was lucky that I'd done that. I wish in fact, I'd probably better do that again, because it's changed since we did it. But what was brilliant was having someone else's eyes on it, i.e. you, and your eyes are the best eyes of all, because when it's your own things, you can't really see the wood for the trees. You get so used to your things, you can't really see a theme. You can't really see it in a thematic way.
I mean, the dandy one was obvious, because that's sort of your quintessential look, is this kind of female dandy on black and diamonds and very sort of aristocrat. Beau Brummel, very Beau Brummel, or even Baudelaire, very Baudelairean, the Black Prince of elegance.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still in that theme. I'll never leave that theme.
And the armor section was really interesting too, because you were talking in it about how, you remember you talked about how you loved armor and how also you used clothes to sort of armor yourself against people in a way, to deflect the gaze from you onto your clothes, because you felt shy. You thought, oh, let them look at the clothes.
That's true. That's true, and I think I still do that. That's a double-edged sword, because you create a persona that sometimes becomes so you wonder why you don't have any friends, because then everybody stays away.
Well, it fits in so well with McQueen's whole aesthetic too, because his was also an armored aesthetic, so they won't dare put a finger on you. It's like, stay away.
And that was his whole thing with me. And he wanted, and I think with Izzy and with other friends, that he wanted to make good friends or women. He wanted to make them look invincible. He wanted to give them a power, and it was his way of protecting you. And I was
that's right.
I was very, very grateful for that. What was so joyous about the whole experience was it was also, incredibly seamless. It wasn't contrived in any way. Everything was so spontaneous with structure, which is always the best way. And
it was really fun too. It was really, really fun. Going to your closets, in New York and in London, and choosing things, and then you putting everything together. Because I remember you asked me, do you want the look at a particular time in history, or how I wear it now, how I used to wear it? And I said, you style it however you want to style it.
That was fantastic. It's sort of liberty, and because it depending on the day or my mood, I could style things 100 different ways, and so it really ended up being just how I felt that day. If I'd styled it the next day, it probably would have looked somewhat different.
Well, as you walked through it, we had the dandy section, we had the armor section, we had the exotic section with the wonderful McQueen kimono.
The kimono that was shown in the exhibition was something that I'd bought, and Isabella had always had said to me, you absolutely must meet Alexander, he's longing to meet you, and all of this sort of business. And I said, well, I'm too nervous. I'm very, very happy to admire him and buy his beautiful clothes, but I don't need to know him. One night I was walking across Leicester Square when I hear this, "Oi, you! That's my jacket." I said, "What do you mean?" So I turned around and there was this person looking at me and he was smiling, and he said, "You're Daphne." And I said, "Yes, I am." And I said, "You're Alexander." And then he went, and then we fell into each other's arms, went off to the pub, and the rest is history.
That's so wonderful.
It was. Because it's funny, because when one is that thing about meeting one's heroes. You don't want to be disappointed, but I absolutely wasn't disappointed. He was so fabulous.
Yes.
He really was. Such a good friend. I mean, very difficult to come by.
And such a brilliant designer. I mean, everything he did was so personal and so emotional. So I love that. No.
Yeah, I do too. I sort of keep it very, very close to me. Actually, that I wish I'd bought more from those collections.
Talk about some of the other pieces in the exhibition that are some of your favorites. Talk about you and Karl.
Me and Karl. Oh, well, I always thought he was incredibly smart and well-read, and actually had such a good sense of humor. He was like a Renaissance man. I mean, he was extremely sort of well-read, cultured, and yes, unique. He was sort of eternally young and curious. Mm-hmm. And that's what was so charming about Karl.
Well, there's some fabulous Gareth Pughs that were in the show as well. And Gareth Guinness is still with us and is starting up to do fashion again.
Yes. He stopped doing runway shows.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
Which actually, funnily enough, he stopped right at the exact point where it was probably the right thing to do.
Well, we had two of your films in the show as well.
Right, of course, absolutely. There was Nemesis and there was the Lady Whitesnake.
That's right.
Right, exactly. So Lady Whitesnake was a collaboration with me and Marcus and Indrani, and it was actually a shoot for the Sunday Times that turned into a kind of film. We decided to carry on filming, which is quite often happens with me. And the other one was a film that I came up with for when I created the scent for Comme des Garçons. I thought that we definitely needed some sort of visual aspect to it. And so you brilliantly put those in the exhibition.
I thought they looked so amazing in the exhibit. And we had our front room is so small, but we framed it with the one McQueen jumpsuit. And then over that was a Gareth Pugh cape.
Yes.
In the front. And then of course, a lot of the shoes were in the front.
Exactly. And then there's all the Azadine stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's the long white shirt with the little black leather brassiere over it. That was an Alaya, right?
That's absolutely an Alaya, and also styled a lot of these things with my ribbons and brooches and
yes. There's all these sequins. We had a whole section on sequins and feathers. What did Valentino say about you and sequins?
Yeah, Valentino said that he always knew where I'd been because of the sequins and feathers that would be sort of I'd leave in my wake. People say that they can follow me by two things: the sequins, the feathers, and my scent.
Yes. Oh, and then you had the sections in the middle with lots of Valentinos and Chanels, which were just kind of chic. I can't remember what we called the sections in the middle, but everything was. It was very understated and cutting things down almost. There were some beautiful evening dresses with jeweled necklaces playing down the back, etc.
Gosh, I'm just looking at those now. Where are they? I must dig them out.
Yes, they're gorgeous. They're
really
unbelievably gorgeous.
They really are. Yeah, they need another outing. Lots of evening dresses, lots of necklaces. I've had catsuits made by so many different people, but what really the difference between a McQueen jumpsuit and anybody else's jumpsuit is the gusset. made them like actually no one else. I mean, it's quite extraordinary how they don't break.
That's important when you're moving in them, because those clothes, they look fabulous, but they're clearly really practical too.
They are really practical. Exactly. Everybody needs a catsuit. Also, the way you did the hair and the wigs on the mannequins, that was
I guess that was Tommy who made those, or we had somebody make those. It was great.
Yeah, and the beautiful mannequins. I mean, of course there are clothes, but there is fashion that transcends just being clothes, and it does turn into art.
Well, and it's interesting too, because you were a pioneering collector of fashion as art. I mean, most collectors are men, art collectors, and people think, oh, well, women just accumulate stuff to wear. But yours was very much, you thought about it like a collector. You were buying the pieces to wear, of course, but also because you really respected the creators and thought of them as being like artworks.
Yes, that is entirely correct.